rightly mentioned that education is one of the important element which one should have. Otherwise, we will not come to know, we will not get the awareness of the society and the status of the social behaviors of the individual unless we acquaint the education. So in that sense also, we the teacher educators are trying really hard to really understand how education can be delivered properly to the students, and how best the student teachers can be acquainted or well versed with the techniques, methods and strategies of teaching, so that they can reach more and more to the students community. So these are all the very important things a teacher educators must understand. And the prospective teachers who want to become future teachers, they should also understand how our classrooms are, how this India has growing all these years since the independence, if we take, and how best teachers have to understand properly the students' abilities, competencies, their diversifiedness, and the differences between the different group of students. Unless we understand these things, definitely we are not going to handle the students properly, as well as we can't plan properly according to the needs of the students, our lessons. So this is the basic concern I have, and that is the reason why I have chosen today's concept, that is culturally diverse classrooms. Normally we think that if you go to a classroom and handle the classes by taking a content, just the content is not only the important element which has to be understood, which has to be planned properly. It is also a very essential that how best the learners are having the competencies, how best they are ready to learn is also very important thing. Unless we know the teaching from learners' point of view, we cannot plan a perfect lessons, as we can say. And that is the reason why I have taken this concept. And as we all know that India is known for its diverseness. It is a multicultural society. I can say India is a very unique society, unique country, because we find a number of diverse elements which we may not find in other countries. We find number of cultures in terms of their religions, in terms of their languages, in terms of their race, gender, and many more. So unless we understand these diverse elements properly, we cannot handle the classrooms. So that's the very intention of my presentation, and my sessions of this presentation goes something like this, like the culture diversity and cultural diversity we will discuss, we will come to know in detail in the beginning, so that we can understand better what diversity issues are prevailing in India. Then next, what areas or kinds of those diversities which will be impacted on the cultural diversity of the people, and how best the diversity and education are interrelated. Why we should understand being the scholars of education. And if you take the diversifiedness, how students are diverse in their learning styles, and even the intelligences are having in number of varieties, we have to understand those types of intelligences as well. And if we maintain this diversifiedness in the classroom, how best this diverse will help in the learning patterns also. We say it is a bad element which we should remove from the classroom. It is not like that. Even the diversifiedness is also very important for the learning patterns. We will discuss how these things will be helpful for students learning, as well as for the teachers in understanding those elements. And even if you want to remove the diversifiedness, or if you want to overcome that diversifiedness, the inclusiveness is very important. So to understand what inclusive classroom is all about, and how to convert the diversifiedness classroom into an inclusive classroom climate, we discuss those issues also. And at the end of the session, we will come to know the different learning and experiences patterns. so that we can plan well according to the experiences which we can give to the students' learning process. And at the end, I have brought some questions so that we can ask ourselves how best we are good in our teaching pattern when we consider the diversity of the learners. To begin with, as I rightly mentioned, that India is a very unique country which is known for the cultural diversity, because India is one of the most diversified country in terms of its multicultural societiness. In every, if you just go for just 40 kilometers or move just away 40 kilometers, you find a different culture where people talk different language, where people celebrate different facilities, and even their kind of culture also differs, their behavior differs. So such a diversified country, India, we find in the world. And the major religions which we can find in India, like Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, and Zoroastrians. So almost all religion people you find in India. And even we have more than 4,200 languages. That is one of the big aspect for the cultural diversity. Even if you take the caste is also one of the important element which is diversifying the people, and even regions and race also. So these elements will really count into the diversification of the people in the culture of India. If you just understand the definition or meaning of culture, you will come to know what are the aspects which are included in the culture. Like culture is a very comprehensive concept which contains many of the sub-concepts like the values, beliefs, attitudes, languages, symbols, behaviors, customs of the people who are living in that particular area can be called as a culture. So hence, even the education can also be one of the element of culture, can be a part of culture. And the very important thing of culture is learned and shared. So we cannot bring the culture from the womb. When we take birth, we cannot bring that culture. Culture is always learned, and whatever we learn in the society, that culture can be shared. Hence we say culture is a very dynamic one, because it changes from time to time, from region to region. And culture normally learned in the beginning, normally from the family, because whenever a child takes birth, it learns, it observes, it perceives a lot of things from the family members. So naturally, the family members' culture will be learned by the child in the family, and then it goes to the school. It learns different cultures from the school.
Sorry
Yes,
for the
Muthu?
disturbance. The time is nearing. All the dignitaries, they reconnected the link.
Shall I continue?
The time is nearing, sir.
Huh. So again, we have to reconnect.
All the participants kindly reconnected this link.
Of different pattern of culture from the community as well. And not only just family, school, and community, the other organizations are like church, masjid, temples, library, fairs. From all those organizations and celebrations, a child learns culture. And if you just see this diagram, you will come to know it is like an iceberg. And the above part is normally, we can say that this above part is only visible like an iceberg in the sea or in the ocean. The beneath part is not visible. The intention of adding this picture is the culture can be seen only a part of an individual, which means only few aspects of an individual can be seen in the society, but most of the behaviors, most of the characteristics or the important elements of an individual, which we say the culture, is not visible most of the time. So that's a very important thing, which means everyone will be having a different set of behaviors in terms of culture, as we can say, and only few things can be visible outside when time permits, when situation needs. we show the behaviors, we show a set of characteristics. To understand few of the aspects from India, because we are going to teach in the Indian classrooms, that's what our intention is, major. If you understand these things, we will come to know how our students are deviated, different from one another. Just take an example of literacy. These 7 decades, the 7 decades I'm saying after independence. So in these 7 decades, we have achieved just 76% of literacy, which means still 1/4 of the children are out of the classroom, which means the parents who are illiterate, those children are coming to the classroom and they may be the first generation learners. If they are the first generation learners, how you deal with them is a big challenge. Then second one is, if you see the unequal education system, we have a types of schools, types of curriculums. You take government school, it will be having a different set of curriculum. If you take a private school, in private school, again, you find the aided and unaided types of schools. Aided type of schools will run with a different curriculum, and some unaided type of schools will run with a different curriculum. Curriculum can be a state syllabus or a CBSE syllabus or a ICSE syllabus. So different set of curriculums our schools are having. And it is also very essential how to deal with all those curriculums. Whether we are becoming teachers for a private school or aided school, unaided school, or a government school, or a type of a curriculum specifically, it's also very important to understand. Then even the management is also different from for a government school, for a private school that is aided and unaided. Even the set of rules are different for type of schools. Infrastructure differs. If you go to a private school which is running with a CBSE or ICSE syllabus, which will be having good infrastructure when compared to the private schools, maybe aided or government schools. So these are the important elements which will really help us to understand our students are different in terms of their socio-cultural backgrounds. Our types of schools are different. Our management and rules are different. Schools infrastructure differs. And not only that, even the quality and competency of a teacher also differs from school to school. A ICSE schools teacher comes to the school in a car, whereas a government school teacher may reach that school by bus, government bus. So, and even the pay scale also differs from government, private, and unaided school. So like that, if you understand these differentiations or the segregation of schools, we will come to know how different our education system is. It is not unique. It is not same for all the students. And the very important thing we should understand is not only the literacy level or the education system, it is also very important that how best government is supporting. The Indian government is spending just 3.3% of its GDP on education, which is very less. Comparatively, other countries, Indian GDP investment on education is very less. We have to raise your voice to spend more on education, the GDP percentage. If we just compare the 2013 GDP, which was 4.6%, now it is reduced to 3.3% in 2018. It is an alarming element for all of us to think. And not only that, the children who come to the classroom in India, they are not healthy. The World Health Education Organization saying that Indian children are stunted. Stunted means lack of growth in terms of height as well as weight, which means if you take the ratio of world children, the height is also very less. Global, it is 22%, whereas India, it is 38%. So height is less among our children. And not only height, the weight aspect also. Global, it is just 13.5%, whereas Indian students lack about 35% of students less in their weight, normal weight. So which means students are coming to the classrooms with stuntedness, which means physically they are not fit to learn. So these elements will really help us in understanding how we have to teach, how we have to handle our students. We just go through some of the indexes like human freedom, 110th country in the world, total in 167 countries, Indian Human Freedom Index is 110, which means freedom is not there in India. It is very less. Global Gender Index, it is 108. World Inequality, it is 146, which means equality is less in Indian societies. And World Happiness, it is 133rd position we are in 156 countries, which means people are not so happy in India. World Peace, it is 137. People are not living with so much of peace in India. And Human Development, it is 131. Health, it is still deteriorated element, that is 154th position we are in the world, which means health is not so much given importance in this country, because only 1 rupee 80 paisa has been spent on individuals. So environmental issues, it is still alarming. It is 177th position in 180 countries. Indian environment is also not good. And world hunger rate, it is 103rd position in just 119 countries. So all these indexes will tell us that how backward India is in all these elements. If India is backward, means naturally our social stratas are much backward, and the students who come from those stratas to the school is a big challenge for all the teachers to handle them and teach them. And we should also understand that just 1% of the people are enjoying the wealth of 71%. Still, India has 27 crore of people who come under BPL, and their per day income is 27 to 32 rupees. So such is the situation of India, and we are all planning and thinking to become teachers in these conditions. That's very important. And still, a lot of atrocities have been heard or read in the newspapers based on the caste, gender, religion, and even harassment is taking place in educational institutions. That's a big thing. When education has to remove all those bottlenecks and make a free kind of environment for the learning, for the learners in the learning process, but it is creating a lot of problems. And even ragging is prevailing in most of the institutions. Exam stress is there, and still learning is marks oriented and memory oriented. If we want to handle all those situations, if we want to remove those all bottlenecks, to become good teachers in our classrooms, in the schools and colleges, means it is really a big task for all the teachers, those who are working and those who want to work in future and getting their training in the training centers. And we all know that health, education, environment, and wealth are the very important aspects for a national growth. And we are all experiencing a lot of positives as well as negatives from globalization, liberalization, and privatization. And in a situation, a country, how to maintain its democracy through education is a big challenge. And rightly, we can assure ourselves that education is the only element which can change the entire society, the entire nation, so that we can expect a smooth running of democracy in this country. To do that, we have to understand few of the aspects I will highlight. I take this citation from World Development Report of 2018. It is saying that the whole education system is having 4 important challenges. It is really feeling more problematic in those 4 areas. The diagram will help us to understand that the 4 elements are: students are unprepared, they are not ready to come to school. It is a first challenge for the teachers or the education system. Don't expect every time that students come to the schools or the colleges with an attitude to learn. They are not ready to learn. Second important thing is the unskilled teachers. In the schools and colleges, we find the teachers, but they are not updated themselves. The skill pattern, the skills are lacking in terms of the teachers. They have to update themselves. Second challenge. Third challenge is, it is the school management. The school managers, they are very lethargic, they are not so keen in managing the inputs, the patterns of the school system or the college or university system. So that is the third important thing. And the fourth important thing is the school inputs, which will be released by the government. Government is giving a lot of funds, but when it reaches to the schools and colleges, the quality of those materials or the margin of those materials will be reduced drastically when it reaches the schools. So these are the four important elements which are rightly mentioned by World Development Report of 2018. It is also a big challenge for all the teachers to understand how to overcome these things. But from teachers' point of view, what we can do is we can update ourselves in terms of skills. We can learn the things, we can understand the different opportunities we will be having in terms of methodologies, techniques, and learners' points of view, different aspects, so that we can understand the learners and make ourselves to be adjusted with the learning environment of students, and we can make our teaching learning process so effective. So let's come to the important aspect, that is diversity. As we were discussing about, diversity literally means in education it is a difference between the students, a set of students, not only just students, it is the difference between the faculty, difference between the different personalities we find in the schools or the learning environments. It may be in terms of their culture, religion, gender, caste, language, and so on. So these differences we find in schools and colleges. And the main agenda of education is to remove these differences, how to address these issues so that the inequalities can be removed, and we should make our learning system in a more comprehensive and equal manner, so that all the learners will feel that it is their environment of learning and they should enjoy their learning process. That is the main agenda of education, to handle the diversification of the learning environments in the schools and colleges. And the diversity agenda is not just related to the participation. It is also relation to all the aspects of an individual. And rightly in 1948, the World Human Rights Commission has declared that there must be universal declaration of human rights, which means no individual's rights must be curbed in any of the aspect. So schools are the best places to nurture those rights of learners, so that we can expect that diversity agenda. So this is how we can reach all the students, by making them to participate in all of the activities of the schools, all of the activities in the classroom, so that we can give equal preferences to all the students, and we can nurture well the competencies of students in a equal manner, in a effective manner. Then comes the cultural diversity. Yes, as I rightly mentioned already, that societies differ from place to place, people to people, religion to religion, and place to and region to region. So that is what the cultural diversity is. The range of different societies wherein the group of people behaves, the group of people shows different set of traditions, different set of rituals they practice, and different set of practices they follow. So this is how the cultural diversity is, and school is one of the important element in that cultural diversity. Think that in a particular area, school prevails means it has to understand what cultural aspects of that particular group is. So unless a teacher understands the cultural diversities of a particular group, the teacher cannot plan well for his or her class, so that he can reach well to the students' community in the classrooms. So that is a very important thing. And sometimes we find diversities in diversities. How it is? Yes, it is something like people from the same religion, same caste, same region are different. Different in terms of their socio-economic status, different in terms of their education level, different in terms of their individual experiences also. Which means in the same religion, in the same set of diversity, we find sub-diversified elements also. Don't expect that if a group of children are coming from the same religion means they must be having same kind of attitudes, same kind of abilities, same kind of competencies. Within that same group, the students or the group of children will differ in many of the aspects. So that is what diversity in diversity. And diversity has got many impacts on the number of things like the birth, death, health, illness, family, employment, and education. So naturally, the education process also got impact through the diversity aspects. And the education says that diversity is must for this era. The reason why is unless we address the diversity issues in the classrooms, our students will not be ready to handle the challenges of the global world. So to face the global world, it is very essential to face the diversity. So such models are very important in the classroom so that we can bring more inclusiveness in the classroom. So inclusive aspects are very important to be implemented so that we can understand more and more diversity. And it is not just for the students, it is also very important for the institutions also, because nowadays an institution has to compete with not just the district level or state level other institutions. It is also very essential for an institution to compete with globally. Think that an institution is running in Tamilnadu means it has to compete with the institution running in Karnataka. It has to compete with the institution running in US also. So it's a globalized world. In globalized world, diversity is much important to be considered so that we can compete, we can compare, we can contrast, we can win those margins of goals which we have set up for ourselves. So hence diversity is the need of the hour. And diversity in education, they go hand in hand, because if you want to give a new kind of experience to the children means diversity counts a lot, because if you want to compare something means diversity is required. So like that, diversity and education, they are complementary to each other, and with the help of diversity, teachers and students must work together to have total educational experience, which is a necessary element for today's world. And if you think of diversity, naturally we have to think of inclusivity, because they are complementary to each other and they are supportive to each other. If you are thinking about inclusivity, we have to concentrate diversity. If you are thinking about diversity, we have to consider about the inclusivity. So that is how the very strong relationship both these terms and both these aspects are having. And our students are diverse. As I rightly mentioned in my early presentation, that students are not same in the classroom. They are different from one another. How they are different? They are different in terms of their social and cultural. They are different in terms of their relational skills. They are different in terms of values, characteristics. And not only that, the way they process the information is also different from learner to learner. And even their communication pattern differs, learning styles and strategy differs, motivational styles differs, and not only that, the whole set of psychological characteristics are different from learner to learner or student to student. Hence, we can say that diversity is an important element in the classroom with students. If you take one example such non-traditional and traditional, traditional students learn in a very different manner. For example, we can take ourselves. Our learning patterns were entirely different when we were in the schools. And non-traditional, which is the current form of learners, learn in a very different manner. Traditional, they were very independent. Competition was the main element was there, and verbal skills were more oftenly used for the learning process. But now peer cooperation is expected. The performance is expected or assessed, not just the marks. Even the visual perception is very much important, and most of the teachers are using the charts, graphs, videos, and many more things, so that visually the content can be understood by the learners. So social interactions are also very important for present learning systems. So that is what the example we can quote as right now we are all sharing the information through a online platform. This is how we can communicate nowadays. So which means the traditional and non-traditional patterns of learning styles are entirely different. And even the gender is also very important aspect. Males learn in a very different manner than the females. Though in a single classroom we find male and female students, but they learn in a very different pattern. So these diversifications are also very important to be understood. And not only that, the learning pattern is also very important from the part of the thinking ability, how the learning and thinking takes place. We say it is sensory preferences, how sense organs will help us in receiving, perceiving, and understanding of the knowledge which will be provided by the teachers in the classroom. So we say the first type of learning and thinking style is sensory preferences. We have again three types of sensory preferences. One is the visual learners. Visual learners means these set of learners, they give more importance to the pictures, diagrams, textbooks, or the videos, because they give more importance for watching something. They watch more, they learn more. So those set of learners are called visual learners. And again, it has been classified into two types, like visual iconic, visual symbolic. Visual iconic means just they view it in terms of graphs, films, and images. But the visual symbolic learners are, they prefer the symbols like the written words or the mathematical formulas. So two set of visual learners we have. And the second type is auditory learners. These set of learners prefer most of the time talking and listening. They want to listen and talk because they learn more when they listen, when they learn more, and they reproduce something by talking to others. So such type of learners can be handled very well, making them to listen the lectures, making them to provide the opportunities for the discussions so that they can listen from others, as well as they can talk to the group of students or the peer group, so that they can learn better. So this set of students are called auditory learners. And third set of students are called tactile kinesthetic learners. They prefer to learning by doing. You should provide the ample opportunities for them to do something like experimentation or drawing something or making a model, because they want to have the experience of hands-on approach. That's what we say. So hands-on approaches will be very useful for such type of learners, and they come under tactile kinesthetic learners. So three types of sensory based learners we have to understand, we have to classify them, then we can reach them very easily by having different set of activities in the classrooms. And the second different set is global analytical continuum. Global learners are there and some are analytical learners are there. The difference between global and analytical continuum is analytical learners always prefer to learn step by step. They don't want to learn the whole pattern in a single go. They want it to learn by step, but the global learners, they learn it in a whole pattern rather than step by step. So such learners are also very important to identify so that we can give our activities according to their learning pattern. And the third important pattern of learning is based on the students' intelligences. As we all know that Howard Gardner has contributed significantly to the intelligence, and he has worked a lot on those areas and given 8 sets of intelligences. He says every individual is having all these types of intelligences, but not in a same ratio. Some may be good in visual, some may be good in verbal, some may be good in mathematical, but everybody is having at least a few percent of these sets of intelligences, few levels of intelligences we find. And it is also very essential to understand for a teacher to know in what area each learner is good at, whether it is visual, whether it is verbal, whether it is mathematical, bodily or kinesthetic, musical, intrapersonal, interpersonal, or naturalist. So this is also very important. The reason why I am highlighting all these types of learners is because you're going to become teachers in future. And I think right now you are also preparing your lesson plans also to go and teach in the regular classrooms. So it is also very important to understand these types of learners, their behaviors, their characteristics. And when you go to the classroom, try to understand in which area which learner is good, how they learn. All these years we have missed this concept entirely. What we do, normally we go to the classroom, we take the syllabus, we prepare the lesson plan, and we teach. I don't think that is just enough to deal good with the students. So these aspects will help you in understanding the different set of learners. And there are some learners which are very exceptional. They are different from normal students. In that case, you need to handle those students with a special education, because unless you utilize their potentials to a great extent, you cannot make them to learn properly. So such group of students will also be there in the classroom, and teacher has to identify those exceptionals. The exceptionals may mentally retarded students, developmental disability students, learning disabilities, intellectual differences. Some may be gifted, some may be talented, or emotional and behavioral disorder students will be there, visual impairment, hearing impairment, oral communication problems, and some of them may be suffering from orthopedic impairments. So these students come under special category. They are deviated from normal students. And other factors like gender, because girls learn in a very different manner than the boys. Boys perceive a teacher in a different manner than girls. So gender is also one of the important. There is a third gender also. We haven't considered all these years actually. See that whether in your classroom you find a third gender actually, is it? So how to handle that student is also very important. And even the racial, ethnic, cultural background students will also count, and socio-economic status. Rich students and poor students may also be there in your classroom, and see that how best you can handle those children. And these diverse learning experiences will benefit students. Research has been conducted by Eve Fine in 2005. How this diversity leads to benefits to the students. And he has found that in a diversified classroom, students' cognitive development has taken place to a greater extent, which means cognitive development takes place to very highly in a diversified classroom. And not only that, students' intellectual growth improved a lot with academic skills, which means diversified or diversification elements are very important for all the learners, not just a group of learners. It is for all the learners to grow, to develop themselves in terms of different competencies, as we can say. And even their critical thinking ability is also improved over a period of time in a diversity classroom. And special needs students are, do we say that actually one who is not special in terms of any of the respect in the classroom? Every individual is unique as well as special. So hence, all the children, all the students we find in the classroom are special. But it is from the teacher's point of view to understand how or in what aspect a child is special. So unless we understand that speciality of an individual, we cannot provide the special needs to the children. So understanding the individual's speciality is quite important for a teacher, so that he can plan the teaching according to the need and availability of the resources which are there in the schools and classrooms. And here are few of the guidelines with the special needs learners. What to do by the teachers? Teachers have to modify their materials. See that normal material is not enough to reach all the students. So you should change the materials here and there, or else according to the needs of the special learners, as well as your procedures which we use in the teaching process. So the same procedure may not be apt or useful for all kinds of learners. So unless we change them, we cannot reach all the types of students. And even the Piaget has rightly mentioned that actually to go from concrete to abstract, always try to produce or give the content in a more concrete manner so that student can touch, feel, see, listen, and then they can move. Then they can move to the abstract concepts like abstract.
Sorry for the disturbance.
Yes.
The closing time is nearing.
Okay, just how much time is left?
No, 3 minutes there.
Okay, shall we get into one more time?
Okay,
just
okay,
few.
Okay, Karen, sir. Okay.
Okay, just if it will end means we shall go to the next session also.
Okay.
Just 10 minutes is enough.
Okay. Continue.
Okay, so that is very important thing. So be aware of everything from the learner's point of view, maybe in terms of their frustration, maybe in terms of their anxiety, maybe in terms of their motivation, and maybe in terms of their ability to do the work. So these are the important things. If you understand properly, definitely we can reach all the students in the classrooms. And that's how the culturally relevant teaching can be produced in the classroom. So planning is very important, and planning requires the basis of students' learning abilities, learning styles. And gender biasness is also one of the important elements for diversification. As I rightly mentioned, that in the same classroom, by the teaching of same teacher, each learner will not learn in the same fashion. The learner's learning ability differs from one another because of their learning ability. And even if you take the gender also, girls and boys, they learn in a different manner. And a research has been conducted by Sarkar in 1994. He says that girls perform equal or sometimes better than the boys in the school. But when they enter into the graduate high school or college, their performance fall behind from the boys. So which means the age level as well as the learning level or the competencies of the learner differs from gender to gender. Boys learn in a different manner, girls learn in a different manner. And the very important thing for a teacher is every learner is having a comfort zone. And see that, try to enlarge that comfort zone of each student. Unless students feel that teacher is helping him or teacher is a very good helping hand for one's learning process, the learner will not come out of that zone. So try to enlarge the comfort zone of each and every learner so that they can come out of it and ask you, discuss with you, discuss with the other group of students and learn better. This is also very important for the teachers to do. And a culturally inclusive classroom is one wherein a teacher should recognize, appreciate, capitalize on the diversities of each learners. Try to recognize everything from learners. And even how to develop those personal contacts with the students is important. Unless a teacher having good contact with the students, learner will not learn in a better manner. Many of the times we think that just teaching is enough, not to make good contacts with the students. No, it is not like that. Personal contacts making is one of the important element of a good teaching, because there must be good rapport between teacher and students. Once the students start loving you, once the students start respecting you, once students start feeling that you're working good for them, they will not learn in an effective manner. So the making personal contacts, developing good rapport between you and your students is important aspect for inclusive classroom. Still we have time. In such a bad situation India is facing,
Yes,
and
sir.
on a specifically good day, on the birth anniversary
Sir.
of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and
Yes, sir.
I wish you all the best to the teaching fraternity, who are really working hard to chisel and mold your students to become good
Yes, sir.
teachers for this country. Thank you, sir.
Professor,
Thank you very much.
Professor, thank you, sir. The teaching is very useful and informative, sir. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation and for the leading online classes, sir. I would like to thank for Jerlin, Dr. Jerlin Fimin ma'am, and Shilpa ma'am, and Daji, Shadi Banu, and other colleges of Senthil Raja, Principal Senthil Raja, and Purushotman, and all my students and the professor. Again, one and all, thanks to you.
Okay, thank you. So which means from 3 different states, we are all gathered here, isn't it? Karnataka, Tamilnadu, and Kerala.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So nice of you. Huh?
Okay,
See you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
students.
Thank you.